Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother, Ema. Hey, Ema.
Hello, my lovey. Okay, I'm so anxious to talk about my trip to Panama.
I know, and we're all anxious to hear it. So
Yes.
we had the beginning where you got to Panama. You told us a little bit about the Panama Canal, and seeing the rivers that were man-made. So you were also telling me earlier, about getting a hold of a tour guide and it not working out.
Yeah, but here's what happened. There was this tour guide that I was trying to get a hold of, and before I even went to Panama, first of all, I had a lot of anxiety about this trip because going to a foreign country, of course, even though I do speak Spanish, still was you're not familiar with, still can be stressful. The So I thought it would be worth it for me to hire a tour guide, no matter how much it costs. So at least I have someone to just totally show me around the place. Well, I tried to get in touch with him and he wasn't so quick answering me back and yada, yada, yada. And finally, he finally answered me back and he got he showed me his tour package. And I picked this one tour package that I wanted. It was like the Indian village synagogue tour, and I've gotten going through the call. There's a highway there. There's like a strip of highway called the Causeway, where it's a very nice area. There's the Bio Museum is there, the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute is there, and there are a lot of nice things just to go around and see on the Causeway. So I picked that package, and according to what he sent me, it was supposed to be $250 for the day. Fine. So I don't hear from him, and I don't hear from him, and I don't hear from him. Finally, I get to Panama, and I say, okay, so what's going on? I was supposed to, I thought I reserved, Monday and Tuesday with you on the following week. He goes, oh yeah, that's going to cost, that package is going to cost $367. I go, wait a minute. I said, you quoted me $250. He says, well, let me see if I can find another couple to join us, and then I'll lower the price for you. Well, he never got back to me, and I said, you know what? I decided, forget it. And I sent him a message saying, sorry, I've made other plans. And I spoke to people. I was there. And people told me in general, you really don't need a tour guide for a lot of these things. You definitely need a tour guide for the Monkey Island and for the jungle tour and for seeing indigenous people, because that's like in the jungle area. And so you really need a guide for that. So I went on TripAdvisor. I did not have much luck with getting a ticket for a single person on TripAdvisor. A lot of the tours, they will not sell any less than 2 tickets. They will not sell a single ticket, which upset me very much because I sent them a message saying, look, not everybody in this world, you have a lot of single people in this world. Okay. And that's very unfair to those of us who are single. But I had better luck getting on Viator. Viator, the tours, a lot of the tours on TripAdvisor were already full. But when I went on Viator, I found a couple of tours that were not full. So I went, I think when I spoke to you, did I already go to Monkey Island?
Yes, we talked about Monkey Island.
Right. Okay, right. Now, that tour advertised itself as wildlife jungle tour. And I didn't know it was Monkey Island because the second tour I signed up for actually said Monkey Island indigenous people whole day tour. So I thought that first tour I signed up, which advertised itself as wildlife, was just was just maybe walking through the jungle or something and seeing various animals. But it worked out very well because that first tour I went on, the monkeys were cooperative and they got on the boat. We got to really see them and feed them. And I'll tell you, the boat ride through the I think it's called I forgot if it's the Gatun River or the Gutan River. I'm getting my vowels mixed up, but going through that, it's the Chargas, so the Chargas River and the Gutan Lake. The Chargas River, by the way, is an ancient river that's been there, since the beginning of, the creation of the peninsula of the isthmus. But the Gatan Lake is a man-made lake that they dammed up for the creation of the Panama Canal. So the second time I went on the tour, first of all, I love boat rides. And on each of these tours, we rode on that catamaran, and it was like the boat was going like this, and the waves are splashing over us. The first time I went on the tour, I wore regular clothes, which got soaked to the bone. The second time, I wore my Aqua Modesta bathing suit.
What's the Aqua Modesta
which
bathing
worked
suit?
out a lot better.
What kind of bathing suit is that? Aqua Modesta?
It's the modest bathing suit.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
burkini kind of thing.
It's a what?
No, so in
I
France,
don't want a bikini.
a burkini, a
Oh, a
burkini.
burkini. No, it's not a burkini. It looks like a regular dress. That's all. It looks like a regular dress.
Interesting.
And you wear it with you put pants. You have these water resistant pants that you wear underneath of it, but it's water resistant.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you didn't know that it was a bathing suit, you wouldn't think it was. You really wouldn't. It was like just a very nice looking dress. It's a turquoise pattern. It was very pretty. So I'm thinking to myself, I mean, I loved it. I think, why do I like this so much? I mean, the water's washing over me. We're afraid the boat's going to capsize. The boat's going like this and like this and like this and like this. I mean, the waves are, really strong. And I'm having a great time. And I just loved it. The tour guide that came with us for the second tour was amazing. A guy named Gonzo. And he is a native Panamanian. He studied in the United States for a while, and he speaks excellent English. And he is personal friends with many of the indigenous people of the tribe that we visited. So he really knows their lifestyle. He knows them very well personally. It's on a first name basis. Matter of fact, he was telling me that when he got divorced, he was 43 years old when he got divorced, and they wanted to fix him up with a couple of women in the tribe.
Do you perhaps know the name of the tribe?
Yes, it was I think they're called Wunan.
Unan, okay.
W-O-O-N-A-N, Wunan, the Wunan tribe. So I said to him, tell me the truth. I said, do these people just put on a show, and after the tourists leave, they go, okay, buddy, get in the cars, let's go back home to our apartments in the city? He goes, nope. He goes, I'll tell you though. He says, the Indians in Mexico who pass themselves as being Aztecs, they are putting you on. They're regular people that are living in apartments and houses, and they just put on a good show for the tourists. And after the tourists leave, it's like, okay, buddy, in the cars, let's go home. These people, he says, it's 52 people that live in this little area, this little tribe. And he took us into the jungle. Not extensively. He was a little concerned because as he told me, he says, Panama has 2 seasons, wet and dry. The temperature is pretty much the same. It's hot the whole year round. It's very humid. But the dry season is about from, the dry season goes from December to March. And that's the really, in fact, he was telling me that the children of this tribe that we visited, he goes, they go to school like anybody else. He was telling me what they do is, first of all, to get to the tribe, we walked up this hill. They live on the hill of a mountain. The Amish, it's on an incline. They live on an incline, and they live in these chicky huts. Although they're trying now, they're replacing the wooden foundations of their huts with concrete, because the wooden foundations, especially with the humidity and the heat and the don't hold up so well. And the men walk around in loincloths. The women have these beaded tops and these skirts. He told us, really, the women walk around topless. It's accepted in their tribe. There's nothing thought, not immodest about it. But the problem was that he says, guys, we're signing up for these tours for ulterior motives. So the women figured, we better make these beaded tops and wear them when the tourists come. But he says, after the tourists leave, and it's the end of the day, he says they take off these beaded tops. We had a chance to, they passed around these beaded tops to us so we could feel the texture and see what they were made of. Oh, they are heavy. Very, very heavy. He was showing us as we were walking through the jungle. First of all, he tested the jungle first to make sure that the grounds were not too wet, because he had a situation where one of the tourists that he was guiding through the jungle actually fell, and he didn't want that to happen. So he came back, and he says the ground was sufficiently dry enough that we could walk through. So he led us up this hill, and it's like a mountainous area, led us up this jungle mountain. And he was showing us all these interesting plants and herbs and telling us what they were for. He showed us one plant, he goes, that was on the ground. So see these leaves? He says, if you have any acid, if you have acid reflux, acid indigestion, any digestive problems, that's the plant. They take that, they boil it up, they drink it, and it solves all your digestive problems. He also told us, he showed us that that Indians don't have any body hair. The men don't have beards, he says that's because when they start to hit puberty and they start to grow body hair, they take the bark of this one particular tree in the jungle and they put it in water, make a bath out of it. And their young people they soak in this every day for a week. It removes all body hair permanently. And he said, as a matter of fact, he says the United States manufacturers, like when the hair removal products that they have in this country, that's what they use, although they don't use a big concentration of it, because if they were to use too much of it, it would take care of your body hair permanently, and then you wouldn't buy their product. So they always use just enough so that you have to come back a few weeks later and buy more. He also was showing us these tree fibers that the Indian women use to make these like little baskets and things. And these tree fibers felt just like plastic straws. It's the same texture. He showed us, and it's meticulous. He goes, some of these baskets, he showed us a small basket, this teeny little basket that they made, and it was heavy. It was like, woo, the fibers were very close together. It was woven together. And this little basket was selling for $60. He said it took this Indian woman who made it 3 months to make this little basket. They're very meticulous. He says the kids go to school. He says what they do is in the morning they get dressed up in their school uniforms. They go to school in the city. They get into rowboats, and their parents or their mothers row them across the lake to where the highway is, and the school bus is waiting there to pick them up to take them to school. He said some of the kids are in high school. Some have plans to go to college. They even have one of the Indians there is a doctor, is an anesthesiologist who works at one of the hospitals in the city. And believe me, he said this man makes a very good living. He says some of the Indians that own cars are permitted to park them at the area where the jungle is called Gamboa. He says there's a very fancy hotel there called the Gamboa Resort in the jungle, and they park their cars at the Gamboa Resort at the parking lot, and then they get into their rowboats, and at the end of the day they row back to the Indian tribe, walk up the hill. He says this doctor comes back to his Indian tribe, takes off his city clothes, puts on his loincloth, and he says, and this doctor told him he would not live any other way. He loves the Indian lifestyle. And I said to this man, to this tour guide, that I can't get over how fit these people are. They're not emaciated, but they're fit. You can tell they're muscular, the women, the girls, everybody they're very good, fit bodies. He says they live a very healthy lifestyle. He says, first of all, if you notice, they grow all their own food. He says they have squash and corn, and if you probably noticed, he said chickens are. I noticed chickens running around. He says they have chickens that they use for eggs or for chicken meat. He says these are free roaming chickens, and he says their lifestyle is very physical. He says you see just walking up and down this mountain hill was very, very strenuous. He says they do that all the time, every day. And they fish, they eat a lot of fish. As a matter of fact, there was one tour group that paid to have a meal there. And the way that the Indians served them was they had fresh fish that they had caught, and they cooked it, of course, over, regular like fire. and they put this cooked fish with a cooked mango, they also have a mango tree there, into this big, heavy leaf. And they use the leaf as a bowl. They wrap the leaf around and they use it like a bowl. So I asked him, I said, do they eat pork by any chance? He says they do not raise pigs, but if they're in the jungle and they see like a peccary, like a wild boar, they do have peccaries there. He says, so they have these poison darts and these blowguns, and they will, kill the pig, and they will roast it. But I thought it was fascinating about that doctor, how, these people, like, especially the kids in high school, whatever, these people, no matter how educated they are, what professions they have, they love their Indian lifestyle. They won't live any other way. So he says he showed me a sugarcane plant that they have there. And he says, but they eat very little sugar. There's very little sugar in their diet, but diet is very, very healthy, very little sugar and a lot of physical activity. So anyway, that was an amazing trip. Besides that, and oh, by the way, in the morning, the Monkey Island, even though I had done it before, I didn't mind doing it again. It was a lot of fun, except that this time the monkeys were not cooperative. The only one monkey came on the boat, and it was the alpha monkey. By the way, the monkeys have a society where there's the alpha monkey, the male, and the other monkeys know, like the other male monkeys know not to crouch on his territory, that he gets the females that he wants.
Oh, of course.
And he eats. And oh, by the way, he went on the boat and started eating while the other monkeys stayed on shore. That's because the alpha monkey gets to eat first. They have a lot of respect for the alpha monkey. So anyway, that trip was a lot of fun. Then I went to another one of the days. But the people were telling me that when it comes to any other thing other than the jungle tour, you really don't need to spend all that money getting a tour guide. You can take the Ubers are amazing there, by the way. You know how when you order an Uber in this country, you wait 10, maybe 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Sometimes the driver backs out and they have to find you a new driver. You order an Uber. I was in my hotel room. I ordered an Uber, expecting, wasn't quite ready to leave. I figured, okay, 10 minutes. Just a couple seconds after I ordered it, I get a message. Your Uber driver is 1 minute away. I go, what? Yes. I'm real crazy. I grab my stuff. I run out of my room. I jump down the steps as fast as I can to meet him outside. By the way, I want to give the hotel owner a big yasher koach. His name is Ram Finkelstein, and he's the owner of Ashel Suites. If you ever want to go there for a yontif with the whole family, he has the entire first level is a whole suite consisting of like 3 bedrooms and a beautiful dining room and a sukkah, and it's all set up for if a whole family wants to come and spend yontif there, they can. Ram was excellent. Anytime there was a problem, 24/7, he makes himself available and he is there for you. His aim is to make sure that every guest has a good, positive, enjoyable time there, relaxing time, comfortable time, and he makes sure of that. He's terrific. So anyway, let me go on. So then, I went to the Biomuseum, no problem. I took an Uber there. They know it's on the causeway. They know the Biomuseum. They take you right there. It's not a lot of money. And here, I told you the thing before what happened at the Biomuseum. Everybody told me, if you want to see the ships come in, you really need to be there between 9 to 11 in the morning. Otherwise, then you have to wait till way, way, way later on in the afternoon, like 4 or 5 o'clock. So I wake up in the morning, I daven, I run out, I get the Uber, I run out there, and there's a whole crowd of people there. By the way, to the section of the Panama Canal that caters to visitors is called the Miraflores Visitor Center. Miraflores means flower view. That was the Miraflores is where the Pacific lock is for the canals for the boats to come through. So, and they have a museum and they have a movie, and then you go on this big deck and you can watch the boats go in and out, and they have an MC there that talks about the boats as they come through, and gives like a spiel. So I'm with a whole crowd of people. We come in, and one of the employees, this is a roped off area, comes inside the building, comes over to us and says, "We're sorry, there will be no ships this morning. Our first ship will be at 1:30, which we were a little curious about why that was, because evidently that's like not normal. That normally the ships will come between 9 and 11. Why that happened, I don't know. She would not go into details. Who knows? So, but she says, but there is the IMAX, there's a 3D IMAX. And so, people are, having a lot of groans, and people turn away, they walk out of the building. So I walked out of the building, I'm standing outside, I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? Do I try to go to maybe the Smithsonian has a tropical rainforest museum, a research center for researching the tropical rainforest, which is on the causeway, which is not too far from the Panama Canal. Do I go there, come back? What do I do? So I'm thinking, do I get a cab, go back, try to go to the Smithsonian, look it up, see what the hours are. And then I thought, you know what? I'm here. I'll go to the restaurant. I'll see what they have, anything kosher. And I'll go to the IMAX and so on, I'll just hang out here. So I ask them where I buy my tickets. I asked them, by the way, for Panamanian residents, the museums are very, very cheap. For people who are not Panamanian residents, they're a little more expensive. Like, for example, Panama Canal for a resident would be maybe $10. By the way, they accept American currency. You don't really have to change your money. It's great. They accept American currency. They accept credit cards. They're terrific. So I thought to myself, you know what? I said, this is a good lesson for me, that guess what? This is life. Things like this are going to happen. It's not what you plan. And I thought to myself, I've got a problem with anxiety, like a lot of us Ashkenazic Jews do. I thought, I said, you can't go around, having anxiety all the time. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to be able to enjoy things. I said, this is life. And, things don't go the way that you plan. So, you have to accept it and just work with it. So anyway, I said, I went upstairs to the restaurant, and lo and behold, I find the restaurant is Coffee Bean. And there's this big sign with their hechsher. I go, oh boy. And so I get a nice big coffee with my oat milk. And I sit down at the table and I listen to Rabbi Kaplan Mitzvah the Day. I play a few rounds of chess on my app, on my phone. And by that time, it's time to see the movie. So I go, and everyone's invited. They announce the movie. Everybody goes and they watch the 3D movie. 3D movie is amazing. It's really good. It's about the whole history of the canal. And there's a scene when they talk about the scientist, the doctor. It wasn't Walter Reed. Walter Reed was the one who discovered that the Aedes aegypti spread yellow fever. It was another doctor. His name began with I think a G, who did research and on what was going on in the canal, because people were dying. Like, they had a lot of workers that had died when the French were the ones that tried to put in the canal first, build the canal. And the reason the French did it was because they had just successfully put in the Suez Canal. So they figured if they can do the Suez Canal, they can do the Panama Canal. Well, what they didn't realize, the Suez Canal, they were working with sand and land that was a lot softer. So with the Suez Canal, they don't have locks. They just, leveled the land, and that was it. And the two bodies of water connected, and that was the end of it. They tried to do the same thing with the Panama Canal. The problem was the Panama Canal, the isthmus, was very mountainous and hard rock mountains. And they tried blasting them away with dynamite. They tried digging and blasting. It did not work. And to make matters worse, they thought a lot of the French, about 20,000 French workers died of both malaria and yellow fever. They thought at the time that the reason they died was because there was some sort of bacteria in the soil that they were working with that might have killed them. It was this doctor then, right before the United States started the work, that found out it was a mosquito. So this is a 3D movie. So they're showing these mosquitoes flying around, and it looks like the mosquitoes are flying right at you. So people in the movie theater are going like this. To try to like push away the mosquitoes, the 3D mosquitoes that are coming towards us. And when they realized it was the mosquitoes, so what the United States government did was they drained the area of swamps. They totally drained the area, and that took care, for the most part, of the mosquitoes. Then they realized that they couldn't do what the French did. They couldn't just level these mountains. It was impossible. That's when this engineer, I think his last name was Stevens. He was the one that came up, which was revolutionary at the time, which was like cutting edge, the idea of the locks, putting in the locks that would open and push, and the water would go in and raise up and raise the ship up, and the ship would sail through, and then the lock would go down, would bring the ship down. And so that's what they did. And of course, the rest is, history. So then so in the meantime, after I saw the movie, I come back into the restaurant and I'm looking around. It's very crowded. And I can't find a place to sit. And I see this small family. It's a husband and a wife and an older middle-aged woman. We'll put it that way. We turned out to be the same age as we were talking. And I asked them, of course, they didn't speak much English. They spoke a little bit of English, the wife, the young wife, had learned English a little bit in school and then Duolingo, like I did, school and then Duolingo. And so I asked if I could sit there with them. It was the only chair that was available. And they said, yeah, they were nice. And so I sat down and we had a very wonderful conversation. They were telling me about a trip they took to the United States last year. They went all the way, Miami, because when I was originally from Baltimore. They go, oh, Baltimore. I go, Baltimore? They go, yeah, they stayed there overnight. They said, because so they drove from Miami to Orlando, up to Washington, D.C. Then they stayed overnight in Baltimore. Then they took their car up to Philadelphia, then New York. Then they came back down the United States. They went to Nevada, Texas, Nevada. They went to the Grand Canyon, and they were showing me their pictures that they took of the Grand Canyon with them standing there. And so I said to them, this is amazing. I said, you've seen more of the United States than I have. So we, like I said, it was very nice. We all spent it was a very pleasant, time. And before we knew it, it was 1:30. And they made the announcement the ships were coming through and people could go on deck. So you come out, there's 3 layers. There's 3 layers of observation deck. There's one right next to the canal. Then there's one higher up with bleachers, and there's one way at the top. And so I went to the top. The top gives a better view. And they were explaining about how the ships come through, that internationally, you cannot, an ordinary captain cannot steer the ship through the canal. It's very narrow. The sides of the ship are just like 2 feet away from the edges of the sides of the where the locks are. So you have to hire a specially trained pilot who's been specially trained in how to navigate the ship through the canal. And so it showed, there was also these small trucks, very heavy iron trucks, metal trucks. They call them mules. And because there used to be real mules that would do this, but now these trucks have lines that go to the ship and are able to help direct the ship through this narrow passage of the canal. By the way, the way that the water fills up, when the locks open, the water fills up, does not use pumps. Never did, never will. It's totally water pressure that goes back and forth. Totally water pressure. When the ships, by the way, when the ships pass through, the guy, they had different announcers. The last I loved it. I was so fascinated with it. I spent the entire afternoon there. I ate my lunch. I was just watching the ships come through, just eating my lunch and just watching how interesting it was. These ships are huge. Oh, the funny thing was they get these big oil tankers or these big ships that are carrying like hydrogen and propane. And you see at the top of the ship a big letters, no smoking. Like, no kidding, buddy. You're carrying this explosive stuff, no smoking. So then the crew comes out and the announcer says, hey, everybody, wave hi to the crew, call out, and everybody waves to the crew. So I blew a kiss to one of the crews who were coming through, and one of the crew blew a kiss back to me. The crews come out, they wave, they cheer, And this announcer was so funny. He was actually interviewing people. He was saying, hey, he said, hey, the lady over here in front of me, wearing the red dress, where are you from? South Carolina. Oh, I love South Carolina. And then I had to leave the area. And after I left the area, I hear him say to this one couple, hey, where are you people from? You from Israel? Israel's a great country. And then there's a pause and he goes, 770 Eastern Parkway. Yay, let's hear for 770 Eastern Parkway. And so after that, so that was the end of my day. So I go back to my room and I decide, I've got some food that I could eat, but I really want to sample some of the restaurants. And that's when I got my anxiety kicked in. I said, it's dark outside. And I hate to say it, this is really sad, but one of the big drawbacks of Panama that they could do better with, their sidewalks are in horrible condition. In fact, I talked it over with one of the native Panamanians there, one of the cab drivers, and he agreed. He says that a lot of people complain about it. He says that he says it makes it difficult for if people want to walk to work or if people just want to take a stroll. He says it makes it very difficult. So I decide, come on. I said to myself, you're going to be a big girl. You're going to go out and you're going to see the sights and you're going to go to the restaurant like a big girl. Now, won't you? And I go, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to face my fears. I'm going to do this. So I go out and it's dark and I'm walking and I'm looking very carefully at the sidewalks, really carefully. I finally I cross the street and I see where there's this it's called Pacific Center. And the Pacific Center is on this side, on to the right as you look at it. And then to your left is a parking lot. And after the parking lot are the kosher restaurants. So I decided, let me go to this Pacific Center and just walk around, because I'm curious. Let me just see what the shopping was like. You go into the shopping mall. And as you come in, there's a small ice skating rink. I thought to myself, should I try the ice skating rink? I thought, my arthritic knees are acting up today. No, I don't think it's a good idea. I go up they have 3 levels here. I go up to the 3rd level. The 3rd level has the super kosher store. You can see it on YouTube. It is the most amazing. It's huge. Every single bit of kosher food or Judaica or kitchen equipment that you could possibly want is there. And so I'm walking around, I'm browsing around. And as you know, I don't know if I put it in the other podcast. I bumped into a lot of Jewish people that I know from the United States, by the way.
That's how you know it's a deal.
Well, what happened was when I spent Shabbos there, I spent Shabbos at Chabad, which was just about a block away from where my hotel was. And I come into the Chabad Center for, Friday night services and meal. And who do I want to run right into? Your brother-in-law's uncle, Bruce.
Cute.
And he goes, we're looking at I go, wow, what are you doing here? And he says to me, were you at the Bio Museum this morning? I go, yes. He goes, he saw me there. And he said to his partner, my goodness, that woman looks just like Zalka Angster. Isn't that amazing? That Panamanian woman, So I go over, so he goes over, he sits at his table, and I come over to his table to talk to him. Guess who is sitting next to him?
His cousin.
Rabbi Fuchs and his wife, the principal of TA.
Yep. Cute. Well, he's not a principal anymore. He was.
Oh, he was. Oh, I thought he was. I haven't been keeping up. So anyway, so when I'm at this kosher store, so to make matters even more, I'm at this kosher store. I see this woman shopping. I said, that woman looks just like the Rebbitzin from our shul here in Florida. And we look at each other, and I go, Tina? She goes, oh, God! What are you doing? She says she and her family decided to come here for a few days vacation. So let me talk about the kosher restaurants now. They're interesting.
Okay.
The kosher restaurants that are around our area, one's called Fuego, which is, it's very nice. It's like meat. It's you can get a deli sandwich. You can get a hamburger. Then there's one called Aroma, which is milchik. It's not called Yisrael, but you can get fish there. I didn't sample that. But the one I went to was called Yas Burger. And that was really good. They have all these different, like a French hamburger with French onions on it and the sauce and everything. And I had a soup there. If you go to Yas Burger, everybody, get the ramen soup. I have never tasted a soup like this before, and it was delicious. It's with ramen. It's Asian. It's with ramen noodles, scallions, all sorts of herbs and vegetables, and 3-minute, not totally hard-boiled eggs, but those 3-minute eggs, that's not totally hard-boiled, but it's just enough to be tasty. That was also floating in the soup. I'd never tasted soup like that before. It's really good. So please get the ramen soup. That was really good. So anyway,
no worries. We have about like 2.5 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's basically that was okay. One more thing I want to go into very, very quickly. I visited the old city called Casco Viejo. Again, watch those sidewalks, man. They've got holes in them. They have a lot of museums there. They have this beautiful square you can see. They also have this beautiful staircase where you go up the staircase on one side. When you're at the top, you have a beautiful view of the mountains and of the Pacific Ocean. And then when you go back down the staircase on the other side, you walk through this little marketplace, which is under this beautiful canopy that's covered with vines and flowers. So you should definitely visit Casco Viejo. There's a nice kosher restaurant there called La Lune, which is Baruch Hashem, very conveniently there. And I told you about the story about the man who tried to sell me these drugs.
No, you didn't tell me that.
Okay, I was sitting in the square, and this man comes over to me and he says to me in Spanish, I'm honest. He goes, I'm honest. I'm a good Christian, just like you. I go, I'm not Christian. I'm Jewish. He goes, oh, even better. And then he said, I have these pills I want to sell you, and they're very good for you. They'll help with your digestion, with your health. And I said, no, thank you. I'm not about to buy pills off the street that are supposed to make me feel good.
Yeah, buying something, buying some random drugs off of some random guy in Panama doesn't seem like the most, safest route to take.
But okay, go ahead.
No, I was saying, it seems like you had a good time. It seems like you really enjoyed yourself.
Baruch Hashem. Like I said, the first day there a lot of anxiety. The first day, different country, different place, not knowing where to go, what to do. But you talk to people, and they, you get advice, and they tell you what the best place are to see, and and eventually, at Baruch Hashem, just after that first day, I had a wonderful time.
That's good. That's really, really good. All right, Ma. I love you. Have a good Shabbos.
Love you too.